along with a good beer goes a good snack. So we have Rozalinde Kriens and David Robustelli here. Rozalinde is the digital marketing lead at PepsiCo, and David Robustelli is the creative director of their agency Capitola.Social. Welcome in studio.
Thanks. So I'm Rozalinde Kriens, digital lead for Lays, and today I'm here with Capitola, our creative agency, to share more on how Lays entered the Metaverse. And let's go back to last year. Just beginning 2021, just before lockdown of the restaurants, basically in the Benelux, was announced, we partnered with 3 iconic fast food restaurants. You can see them up here. And we have quite a rich history, basically, of driving excitement for new flavor campaigns and partnering with 3 big brands like KFC, Subway, and Pizza Hut really created an extra rich flavor to our campaign. But could you consider at this stage, at the beginning of a campaign, in the end, how we would then enter the Metaverse? I think that's the big question. How do you then successfully introduce new flavors but end up in the Metaverse? But before I share more on that, I'd like to take a step back and share more on the breadth of this campaign in a nice short video with you.
Everyone loves eating out with family and friends to create memorable moments together. But then, due to COVID, the world went into lockdown.
All restaurants will close at 9 o'clock.
With restaurants being closed, how could Lays bring back our favorite flavors and create the excitement of eating out while staying in? Introducing Lays' iconic restaurant flavors. KFC Original Recipe Chicken, Subway Teriyaki, and Pizza Hut Margarita. First, we teased the countdown to launch the new flavors on several media platforms like the Facebook takeover. 55,000 people signed up to be the first to taste, even though we only had 1,000 free giveaways available per country. Then we launched and introduced the world to the iconic restaurant flavors through TV ads, digital media, influencers in-store and outdoor. People wanted to try these iconic new flavors, but lockdown meant they couldn't go out, and sampling in-store was almost impossible. So, we created a special Uber Eats campaign, which was the first launch of a brand in Uber Eats. That allowed us to home deliver the iconic restaurant flavors even in times of COVID. Delivered in the original restaurant packaging, the bags sold out in just 2 days. In store, all 3 flavors sold out in the first week, leading to the reselling of the flavors on eBay. End of summer, it was time to activate our community for the voting phase. Merchandise was used as an extra incentive. Which flavor deserved a permanent place on the shelves?
So, the flavors are an instant hit and everybody wanted to get them. And also from a media perspective, looking at it, the digital strategy behind it, it was a great success. And during summer, people could vote actually for their favorite flavor to stay on shelf. And they did so massively, as you can see from these numbers. And it was a close call, but the most favorite flavor, it was the Lays Subway Teriyaki, with more than 80,000 unique votes. Pretty mind-blowing, I must say. But how do you generate attention for a campaign that's already live for 35 weeks on air, and also for a flavor that's already on shelf for almost a year, right? So that got us thinking, can we enter new worlds? What about a Metaverse? So we went where no other crisp brand has ever been before. But before we went to the Metaverse, our crisp brand was the first to meet with fashion. So we introduced the Lays Crispy Puffer Jacket, and this is a jacket made out of real crisps and recycled crisp bags. And it's all about this crazy, unique item, I must say. And it was wearable, it was a physical jacket. And we were the first FMCG to also enter virtual fashion in the Netherlands. And David will share more on what it looked like digitally.
Thanks. Hi, I'm David. I'm creative director at Capitola.Social. And I've worked on the Crispy Puffer campaign together with PepsiCo and Fitzroy. So I think first it's interesting to say something about virtual fashion. I think the most interesting thing about it is basically that you don't have to be a fashion brand to create virtual fashion. And that's also why PepsiCo as a FMCG brand stepped into the virtual fashion. And with that, we could create a full 360 digital campaign and have people really engage with the virtual fashion piece and actually also own it. So how it started was basically with an AR version of the jacket that was also physically made. So we did a translation from the physical item, from the physical fashion piece to a virtual fashion piece. And then we had people being able to play with it, to engage with it in augmented reality as a Snapchat lens. So this was the first step, and it was a virtual try-on for people. And they could actually discover the virtual try-on within Snapchat, obviously, but also on the packaging from Subway. So there was a snap code on the Subway packaging. People could scan it with their Snapchat, and then the jacket would pop up. They could try it on, and then they could actually win limited edition NFTs, which was the next step. So we created 5 limited edition NFTs. So we did like a high poly render of the 3D item of the jacket. We copied it and we made it like look super nice. But then we thought, okay, but we also want to have, we also want to give it a utility. So not just like a gimmick, which looks very nice, which you can see, you can show to others from your screen or from your phone. But we wanted to add a little bit more. So then we thought, oh wow, why don't we make it a jacket as a wearable in virtual worlds like the Decentraland? First of all, the jacket was also was not only able to win it, but it was also auctioned by Sotheby's, and the proceeds were donated to the Voedsel Bank. Short sidestep. So yes, the step 3 was entering the Metaverse, and we choose for the Decentraland as a virtual world because we thought that's where people really, like to also express themselves in a way, and virtual fashion is a very interesting way of expressing yourself not only in real life, but also in the virtual world. So we created a version of the jacket for the Decentraland, and so if you would buy the NFT or if you would actually win the NFT, you get also the jacket airdropped to your Decentraland profile. And the funny thing is, obviously, when you enter the Decentraland for the first time, you start with dressing up your avatar. So you can choose from some predefined wearables, and when you have something that's unique, you will really stand out in the Decentraland. And I think that's what made this jacket so interesting, and also how it was integrated into the campaign, and how we basically went from a virtual try-on towards an NFT, towards actually being able to own the jacket in the virtual world, and you're also being able to actually resell it within virtual worlds. So I think that really gave it a utility, and we stayed a little bit away from just a gimmick as a nice video render for an NFT. I think the reach was quite well. We had like over 5 million views in Snapchat, with over 100,000 people actually using the AR lens. And I think the interesting thing here is that when you launch something in Snapchat and when you put paid media behind it, it's not an ad that users are seeing, but it's actually an AR experience at the bottom of your carousel. So when people are scrolling through their augmented reality experience through their lenses, the Lace Perfect jacket would also pop up there, and people could just try it on by hitting the button. And then there were over 20 million earned impressions. So what did we learn?
Yeah, what did we learn? Well, basically, we're in the first stages. So these are very first learnings, and I think we're never finished learning yet because there's so much yet to come. But our message, I think, looking at the experience we have with Lace, is be there and be unique. As we see that the adaptation of consumers is growing, I think the Metaverse is a very important touch point for consumers and brands, or even to say brands and their fans, right? So be there and be unique. Be connected. I think that's the second step I hope that we've shared with you. Think 360 integration, also like Ansu shared. Don't stop just thinking of an introduction within the metaverse, but also build an ecosystem around it and generate exposure around it. I think at this moment, that's a very important key point. The third one, be brave. Be brave and embrace a test and learn mentality because, well, we don't have all the answers yet. It's not all measurable yet, but it's very important to think about these opportunities that the metaverse is giving at the moment for your brand, and dare to be there and start small with baby steps. And then the last, but certainly not the least, because I think it's the most important, that also David just shared, think of the added value to the user. So what can our fans do with it? And in our case, you could really own the jackets virtually, but also in real life. So that was, I think, very interesting for our fans to step into this campaign and be part of the competition that we had running at that point. So like I said, we're just sharing our first learnings, and it's a pretty exciting world. So we're not finished learning yet. And thanks for having us.
Thank you. I have some questions already. The Martin in the studio, is the code being traded? The actual code?
You mean the jackets, right?
Yeah, the actual jacket.
Not
Yeah.
code, but code.
The actual or the virtual jacket?
Well, that's a good point. Perhaps
I
both.
I think they mean the virtual jacket. So far, the owners have not resold it yet, so they're holding it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hoping it will rise in. You already said it is a test and learn environment. When do you measure whether it's successful or not? Can you tell we succeeded or not?
I think with this specific campaign, we really stepped into the excitement. And like I shared earlier, we already had quite a rich campaign, right? So how could we generate extra attention? And then I think it's also very important for us as a company to constantly innovate. And this was a space we hadn't experienced yet. So it was a bit of a natural outcome, I think, of the entire product itself, and also the enthusiasm of our partner Subway as well. So
Yeah, you see a lot of big numbers also again in your presentation. Before we started, I talked with David in studio, and we talked about the metaverse, and you talk about virtual worlds.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that?
You know, it's a little bit of a thing, obviously, because the word metaverse is something that exists already over 20 years. And you know, you heard nobody talking about the metaverse 3 years ago, for example, right? And I think you know, Mark Zuckerberg really started the hype of trying to claim the word the metaverse. But I actually saw a talk of him at South by Southwest, and he was also saying, you know, I'm not building the metaverse, you know. And I think a mistake that a lot of people make is that they think that Decentraland is the metaverse, that Roblox is the metaverse, you know, that Sandbox is the metaverse. But we're not there, you know, and there is no metaverse yet. So it's super interesting. I think it's a first step into what it could be. You know, and what I'm saying, it's a very good place to learn as a brand of you know, how can we manage this in the future. But I think there's a very, very, very long way to go before we can actually talk about an existing metaverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And one thing you both talked about is be connected. It has to do with the people to connect with your brand.
Yeah,
but I also see a lot of collaboration. You did a lot of collaboration with other brands, with the agency, so you have to do it together.
Yeah, certainly. It's quite a massive project, I must say. I think we just stepped into it, and it became major, even on top of the already quite successful campaign we had running. And I think it was so exciting that we were the first crisp brand to actually be there. And we could have also thought, well, we're introducing our product, our crisp, right there. But it didn't feel it would add enough excitement and renewed attention. We wanted to be there where our target audience is.
Yeah.
That's also on Snapchat. That's also with AR. We're always developing a lot of different AR lenses for our audiences. And yeah, it all came together, I must say. And
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Let's see if there are more questions not from the audience right now. What would you do different next time? Perhaps a question for both of you.
Well, from our part, I think because it was, as she said, the campaign, like it was not like planned out that we were, going to have this full 360 strategy. So having more time obviously would have been nice because it was very stressful, and we want to have it all together. There was also a big exposition in Moco, Amsterdam, where we displayed the NFTs, and where we had some talks about creating NFTs and also from the creator community. So I think the more time you have, the better the product in the end. And then we would also have more time to dive a little bit deeper into the Centraland and maybe also do like a lounge in there. But there was no time for it. So having more time is definitely something.
But why was there the time frame? Well, what was the deadline?
Well, there's a whole thing about creating for the Centraland, and I think also Otto knows about that. I mean, things have to be reviewed. Things have to be reviewed, and you don't even know if it's gonna be accepted. So it's a very exciting space, and you don't specifically know what the outcome is going to be.
All right. So there is a metaverse police actually.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
And if I can tap into that, I think traditional marketing rules, they don't necessarily apply. So next time we would look thoroughly at it, having more of a long-term vision, perhaps from the brand itself. Whereas now it really, it came naturally from the running campaign and that specific product. So that would our focus area be, I think, from a brand perspective.
Yeah.
We don't know where it's leading up to, right? So.
No. All right, and what would you advise other brands when they want to get started in the metaverse, in the universe?
Well, I would definitely advise them to look for agencies that have experience with those kinds of campaigns, and really start researching, because it's very important. And you don't want to be the last one stepping on the train. I mean, it was like 12 years ago that people thought they didn't need social media, that brands thought they didn't need social media. The brands that tap in first are the brands that are going to win in the end. That's what I think personally.
So
doing some research, but get started.
Sure, try.
Be agile, step in. Yeah. Next time we're going to create a crisp cafe, and perhaps Heineken can join.
Are you a new collaboration?
I love collaboration.
Thank you very much.
Good, thanks.
Thank you.